This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Brueski.
We are talking with retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer right now. Let's talk about Manson, little throwback. Leslie Van Houten, member, obviously, of a Charles Manson family involved in the two killings in 1969. Up for parole. The board saying, yeah, we think so. There's still some more hurdles to go through for that to actually take place. This is kind of a question of, is this appropriate? I mean, she was involved in stabbing someone 41 times back in 1969. Granted, it was under Charles Manson and how much control he had over them. But is this someone who should be considered for parole or just continue to spend the rest of their lives behind bars?
No, my opinion is no. You know, they received the death penalty early on. That was commuted and they got that, they received that grace. This isn't about whether she's rehabilitated, whether this 73-year-old woman is going to go out and do another crime. This is about punishment. Mm-hmm. This is about the fact that she's had a life. She's been able to have telephone calls. She's been able to, live somewhat of a, at least as much as you can, meaningful life, enjoy a meal, have communication with loved ones. And that is something that was taken from the LaBiancas. Recall also the brutality of this. You mentioned 41 times in Rosemary was stabbed. I'm sorry, I'm going to get graphic because I think that's important to the point here. They took the blood from these victims and wrote all over the walls. I mean, that's sticking your fingers in all of this blood to acquire the blood to write and smeared all over the walls. They wrote with a knife war in the belly of Mr. LaBianca. They sat down and ate afterwards at their house. Charles Manson was nowhere near them. I understand everybody says under the influence, they were brainwashed, they were doing LSD. It takes a special, is that the right word? Yeah. It takes a demented human to be able to do that to another.
Yeah.
And my thoughts and concern regarding justice are with the victims and the victims' families. Sharon Tate's sister has come out and said, and I realize Van Houten wasn't on the Sharon Tate murder, but still her co-conspirators were, part of her group was, and she's come out obviously against this. I think it's just horrible. It's even being considered.
And it's one of those things where you're exactly right. The public does need to understand exactly what happened. It's easy to look at this 73-year-old woman and go, oh, look, she looks like the person that, gives out cookies at the deli by the Piggly Wiggly. She's not. Obviously, what she did is horrific, and it's not just, oh, she ran up and did it, and he was right behind her saying, do it, do it. No, they were not even in the same place. This was a matter of some free will. And then to continue to go through the scene and do what they did, you're exactly right. It takes a very demented, sick type individual to be capable of doing something like that. And I think the question is, if you are capable of doing that at one point in your life, period, who's to say you couldn't do it again? I doubt the 73-year-old's going to be repeating that. But at the same point, it was done. She did it. And the victims' families deserve that individual to be paying for the crime that they committed. How do we even get to the point where you get somebody who was on death row to be able to be up for parole, period, once that was lifted?
I think it's a fallacy in their system. I mean, I'm all for following our system of justice, but obviously this is very flawed. And I really want to circle around, Tony, to why, other than probably this was the first case that as a young woman, I read Helter Skelter, which is the book that really chronicles this case. Yeah. And so I think that was probably my first true crime case I knew about.
Yeah.
I really think it's important for people to read Helter Skelter to really understand what these people did to these bodies and to these individuals. And fast forward now to Bryan Kohberger, if he's convicted of this, and then we look at years later when he's 73, if he doesn't get the death penalty, him asking for parole, him trying to get something commuted, him arguing. In other words, right now, people are incensed by the murder, and we haven't even heard the details, Tony. Yeah. I think when we know the details of how they were slaughtered, people are going to be more enraged. But right now, we don't. Yeah. But compare that, Tony, to that's the same feeling that people had in 1969. I believe there were 9 total murders that Charles, at least as a conspirator, is connected with. This was horrific what they did to the Tates and the LaBiancas. Horrible. And people back then were understood. And I compare it to this now. Memory fades with time, and that's why you have people wanting to get her out.
You're exactly right. Sometimes it takes that wake-up call, like reading Helter Skelter, to put people back and go, oh, yes, this did indeed happen. This isn't just some scary myth or movie or whatever that one watched. These were real people, and these crimes certainly were committed.
This is an examination of the hidden human condition.
This is the Hidden Killers Podcast
with Tony Brueski.
Retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffindaffer, thank you so much for your insights onto that and the perspective of looking back at just what that crime was all about. If you have any comments, you want to raise your opinion on this or any of the cases we're following for you, we have a phone number for that. It's 888-5-KILLER, 888-554-5537. Love to hear your thoughts. May end up playing them back on Murder in the Morning and discussing how you guys feel. Always open to your thoughts. You can also reach out on Twitter at Tony B Pod. That is where I am at Tony B Pod on Twitter. I'm Tony Brueski. Stay with us.